like to tell you about how school uniforms would be positive for our children in the public school system here in the United States. I have worked in the juvenile justice system, and I have seen firsthand how children focus more on their clothing than they do sometimes on their studies. Also, being in the juvenile justice system, I have seen many youth in the teenage age group be in gangs. And also in these gangs, they have to wear a certain type of clothes or a certain color. I see school uniforms as a way to not only curb gang violence, but also a way to hinder bullying, and also to have our children focus more on their studies and less on what they and their peers are wearing. So today I would like to tell you what would be involved in having a mandatory school policy for uniforms. Also why it is detrimental for us to keep on following the dress codes that we have established in public schools, and why we should switch over to a uniform type of policy. Also, I would like to talk to you about how schools can implement this policy, and also how the community can help support this. Okay, let's discuss school uniforms. What are some of the issues that schools have right now as far as the dress code they're trying to enforce? Well, as most people know, who probably have already had children, the school has a hard time of enforcing the dress code policy. Children in America especially are have a very high expression of themselves, and they show this through their clothes. The parents also have a hard time of telling their children that they cannot have designer clothes, when the children put a whole lot of pressure on parents. The National Association of Elementary Principals reported in 2011 that once they implemented a dress code, which included a uniform that was standard for all children, they saw an uptick in performance scores on testing. The National Center for Education reports that over 16% of all schools have a dress code policy. In Texas, LUSD did a study of the school children in grades 1 through 5, and they found also that once they implemented a dress code policy, they saw a sharp uptick in test scores. Some of the reasons that the dress code policy as it stands now in the public schools is not working is simply because of peer pressure. Everyone has heard about peer pressure, and probably if you even went to grade school have experienced what that peer pressure is like. Also, the family life of a child who is bullied or is bullying others is reflected in how they act at home also. This can be a disruption on the family life and have a direct impact on this child's future. The Consortium on School Violence shows that when dress codes are implemented in public schools, those districts have less school violence overall and better behavior. In Kansas City during 2011, certain school districts saw an increase in the self-esteem reported by their students once dress codes were implemented, as well as in New York public school systems, who reported that there was much more tolerance for children who were labeled as different or maybe didn't wear the most popular clothes to school. Of course, when there is a uniform policy that is adopted, there is just less bullying. Sometimes that's just a common sense. I mean, if a child doesn't have a reason to bully someone else based on their appearance, then they're more likely to put their focus on their studies. If a child thinks they're going to be judged based on what they wear, they're going to put a lot more time and effort into making sure that they dress a certain way. If you take away this stress and the child knows what they have to wear on a daily basis, they will be much more likely to not worry about how they appear to others, and also not worry so much about appearance of others. This this leads to less arguing on a daily basis for the parents and less arguing for school officials that have to police this policy. Yes, it seems like a no-brainer that a uniform policy would be good to implement in our public school systems. Many parents do not have enough funds to make sure their child is wearing the nicest or the newest thing. And it is hard on many parents because they do want their children to fit in. They do want them to have less stress. And a lot of parents think the way to do that is to make sure their child has the newest sneakers or the newest jeans. And their child really does make them believe that that's what they need. From personal experience, I've had my child come home crying because somebody said, that she was wearing jeans that were inferior to somebody else. It tugs on your heartstring, and you think that your child needs exactly what everybody else does, and you don't want them to fall behind, and you don't want them to be bullied. But the fact is that parents and other people in the community are putting in tax dollars and have a right to say how our school systems are run, even if they do not currently have children that are going to school. Most people in a community do know that when there is school violence that is related to gangs or bullying, a lot of that anger and a lot of those issues fall upon or become a burden of the community. If there is gang violence or violence in general, the police department has to be involved, which takes time, money, and effort. Also, a lot of the community justice-based programs are going to have to put a lot of time and effort into the school, when it's very possible that just implementing a uniform policy would reduce a lot of these issues. Parents need to speak up and let the school system know that they want a uniform policy, that they understand what this policy is, and they are supportive of it. It is shown that many school districts do not want to implement this program because they do not believe that the community and the parents of their children are supportive of it. Parents and other members in the community need to let the school board and school administrators know that they are supportive of a school uniform policy. They need to talk to other parents. They need to talk to other parents about issues such as bullying or the price of clothes, because a lot of people do not realize that other families have the same issues that they do. Trying to keep their child safe, trying to keep their child from bullying other children or judging them, to teach their children to be more tolerant, to teach their children even what it's like to have to be professional. And when you go to a job, you have to wear a certain type of clothing, which all leads to education. Good education and knowledge is what I'm trying to impart on you, to let you know that school uniforms are beneficial to everyone. It is shown that peer pressure peaks during the early adolescent years between the ages of 13 and 16, according to the National Education of Statistics. This is just the time when children are the most vulnerable to self-esteem issues caused by bullying or being judged by others. Taking away a factor such as clothing and making everybody wear the same thing takes a lot of pressure off of our children, which is what is most important. We want them to learn, we want them to be in an environment where they feel safe, and we also want them to learn that the appearance of somebody is not what you should judge the person's character on. You should judge them on what they do, what they know, and how they speak to you. Having two teenagers myself, I hear about the cliques and the preppies and all different types of children throughout. And even though I have went out of my way to teach my children that you judge somebody based on what they do, not on